In today's video, I'm going to make a rare attempt for this channel in actually trying to provide a definitive guide on something. And that something is how to get started with Infinity the Game by Corvus Belli, which is a 28mm cyberpunk and anime-inspired tactical wargame, and just happens to be my favourite wargame ever. The first question you might ask yourself is, why Infinity? What is it about this game that makes it right for me? There's a few different answers to that, and the appeal is going to vary based on who you are and what you like from a game, so I'm just going to go over some of the main reasons here. Infinity is a low model count game, with a full-size game typically involving fewer than 20 models a side. There's a meme in the Infinity community that is, all you need is 15 models, and this is technically kinda true. However, realistically, you're far more likely to shoot for about double that as a minimum. That way you'll be able to build different lists, swapping different models out depending on how you want to play that particular game. Even with that said, obtaining a full-size usable force for Infinity is pretty affordable compared to some other games. Infinity has a very hard sci-fi, cyberpunky kind of look, with a lot of very obvious Japanese animation influence too. The models are extremely crisp in how they're sculpted, meaning that although they might look challenging to paint, they lend themselves really well to tons of shortcuts and tricks that make them actually, in my opinion, among the easier models to paint out there. There's a very clear aspirational box art look to Infinity's official photography, but a short browse through community resources will find you a ton of other cool approaches you can take. Unlike many miniatures games where the competitive scene emerges from a casual beginning, Infinity was designed from day one, from the ground up, to be a competitive game. This means that the game focuses on minimising variance, trying to keep those edge cases to very low probabilities, allowing most games to play out as something closer to the average. This experience doesn't just benefit the tournament player, however. Having a more even balance as a focus of the game means that every single faction and model can be a viable choice. You're not likely to just get stomped because you chose not to play the current hotness. Infinity, to a point, probably offers some of the best examples in gaming of where you can truly just play what you think is cool. Unlike most games out there that have a kind of your go my go dynamic, Infinity uses a unique system of reaction mechanics which allow the player whose turn it isn't to react to certain things that the active player is doing. This system creates a much more cooperative gaming experience where your attention is held captive by not needing to spend excessive time doing nothing. The reaction mechanics in Infinity are one of the most attractive features for many of its players and bring a real deep sense of tactical play to the game. So, let's assume you like the sound of all this and you've decided you want to get started in Infinity. What are the first steps? Well, you could ask 20 different players this and get 20 different answers, because with Infinity being a smaller game, it does tend to have less standardization in how people are taught it. Corvus Belli have attempted to create a standardized onboarding experience, however, with Code 1, which is a version of the game that is designed to be very light, very approachable, and to teach you the basic play patterns and style of gameplay you'll find in Infinity. As a new player, if you were coming in solo and from no prior experience, this is probably where I'd recommend you start. There are plenty of easily signposted products for Code 1 to help you get involved, and as with all Corvus Belli games, the rules are available as a free PDF or a physical book. I'll link this free PDF along with anything else that I mentioned during the course of this video down in the description below. However, if you're looking to join an existing Infinity playgroup, there's a fairly high likelihood that the players there will be playing N4. N4 is the full fat bells and whistles version of Infinity. It's the same game as Code 1, so don't be alarmed. It's just a broader version where your troops can do more. Typically when existing players onboard new players directly into N4, They do so by stripping back a lot of the rules and slowly introducing them into the game. In essence, this means you're getting exactly the same experience you'd get from Code 1, just with a pace and a structure that is dictated by your teacher instead of being standardised by Corvus Belli. Once you know which version of the game you want to step in from, you may well be faced with a situation where you don't actually know anyone else who plays it. This can be common with the smaller, lesser known games, and so Corvus Belli and the Infinity community have provided some great resources to help with this. Tabletop Simulator is a video game, essentially, that creates environments in which wargames and other games can be simulated. Unlike a game based on a wargame, playing through TTS allows you to play the actual same wargame. I already have a video on getting started with TTS, which I'll link so that you can watch it after this. Many Infinity players will play most of their games over Tabletop Simulator, whilst they slowly paint their collections up and prepare for in-person tournaments. They'll use Discord servers like the Infinity Global League, Infinity the Discord, or even my very own Discord, to find opponents and hone their skills. The great thing about this is that the environment to play Infinity in, and all of the miniatures to use to play the game on Tabletop Simulator, that's all absolutely free. You only actually pay for the software itself, which is often on sale for very, very cheap. Buying into Infinity, much like any other game, can be tricky without a bit of prior knowledge, but that's exactly why you're here researching, right? You're watching this video to gain that prior knowledge. So let's go over a few of the options for how you might buy into Infinity and discuss how good or bad they might be. Corvus Belli make it very easy to know what a two-player starter box is. They've done a lot of them by now and continue to release one pretty much every year. In the community, these are usually referred to as battle boxes. If you see any product with the word Operation in its name, you're looking at a two-player starter set or the expansion set that belongs to one of those two-player starter sets. These sets will typically give you two small forces of about 7 miniatures, and then they'll often include a kind of wildcard miniature, something that's available to either of the armies in the box, meaning that you have up to 8 models of an army from the off. They also include some scenery, a playmat, tokens and templates, a set of quick start rules, and even 3 dice for each faction. It's worth noting though, these dice are just normal d20s. They have the faction symbol on the 20, but they're not special in any way. You just use normal dice to play Infinity. So I've just mentioned these previously, but the battle boxes are typically followed by a Beyond box, which is an expansion linked to the battle box, designed to bring both 7 model armies up to the 10-point model cap for Code 1. You'll know which battle box links to which Beyond box because they'll share the same operation name, nice and simple. Beyond boxes are great to buy either alongside a battle box or shortly after buying one, to allow 2 new players to experience a well-balanced match at the typical full Code 1 size. If your plan is to build a playgroup from scratch, a battle box and a Beyond box will also give you 2 full armies and scenery with which to do that. Also, just a quick note regarding these 2 products before we move on. At the time of recording this, in May of 2022, the current Battle Box and Beyond box are Operation Crimson Stone. However, there is a new box due in about 2 months, so it's a good time to tell you what happens when a box changes. Functionally, the new box will be exactly the same to the current one, but it will feature 2 different armies, which are 2 armies that are just coming into Code 1, and it will have visually different scenery. Everything else will be much the same. Collection packs are a relatively new product from Corvus Belli, designed for invested Code 1 players to be able to make a single big purchase to quote-unquote complete a faction in Code 1. They offer one of every single release for that faction in Code 1, which means as well as getting something like the big tag model, for example, that's the big armoured robots that, if you've looked into Infinity at all, you'll have no doubt encountered by now. You'll also get all the named characters, and you'll get multiples of the units that are released as multiples, such as line infantry and remotes. I don't necessarily recommend these as a first purchase, but if you're absolutely certain you want in on Infinity, they do represent a huge discount over individually buying the models. What's more, you also get a hard copy of the Code 1 rulebook with them, so the value for money is very good. Action packs are probably the first part of the Corvus Belli offering where you need to be a little bit careful, because some are only compatible with N4, whilst others are compatible with both versions of the game. You can tell which is which very easily though, just by looking at a photograph of the packaging. The Code 1 only packs are branded really clearly. These action packs are full 10 model Code 1 armies, or 10 model starter armies in N4, so they can be a great product for expanding out your collection to try new factions. Again, however, they probably don't make a ton of sense as a first pickup, unless you have an existing group, you're certain you want to commit to Infinity, or you really want to play an army that isn't available in a Code 1 product. The next thing I want to talk about are the various resources for Infinity, and this will largely be a section where you're just going to want to check the links in the description, because for the sake of any kind of brevity, I will have to gloss over some stuff. Whilst you're down there though, checking that description, you could totally consider becoming a patron of my channel. For the measly sum of £1 a month, you can help me keep making videos like this one, join our amazing Discord community, and get yourself playing some Infinity on Tabletop Simulator. The first place we have to start in this section though is the Infinity Army app, because it is so central to Infinity's game design. Not only is this where you'll design your armies and share them with your friends, but it's also a place where you can look up weapon profiles, various game elements like hacking and martial arts, and most importantly of all, experience the joy of hyperlinks. There's a feature in the Army app that excites me so much every time I use it, where any skill in a model's profile is actually a link, and you can click that link to go directly to the entry for that ability on the officially maintained Infinity Wiki. This makes rules lookups during the game so fast, and is a feature you'll find yourself constantly taking advantage of. The app is of course available on the web, on iOS and on Android. There are genuinely too many good YouTubers covering Infinity at the moment to stand a chance of remembering them all. What I'm going to do instead is just recommend the ones that I regularly watch, and this is not to say at all that the rest aren't great, these are just the ones I watch. Infinity Gamer is probably the person I find myself going back to the most. Thomas seems to have videos covering pretty much all of the important topics pertaining to the game, as well as offering a lot of fun opinion pieces and the occasional battle report or hobby video. Warlore is probably my favourite Infinity lore channel, with often super funny videos talking about all sorts of lore subjects within the Infinity universe, really worth checking out. Ash at Guerrilla Miniature Games and the chaps over at Fast Panda are usually where I go for battle reports. Ash's reports are a little bit more occasional. Fast Panda post bat reps for almost any Infinity mission that's ever been printed, and they do so pretty regularly too. Both well worth checking out. Infinity is a very healthy subject for podcasting, and there are some really great ones to get stuck into if you want to get some insight into other people's views on the game. Loss of Lieutenant is without doubt my favourite podcast. I'm a patron of theirs, and I likely will be for life, to be honest. Very casual, very funny, but with a lot of great information. Kev and Nick from Loss of Lieutenant were actually two of the people who helped me get my start in the game. Next up is Metachemistry, and this is one you'll probably either love or find a little less interesting, just because they're kind of mono-focused more toward the competitive side of the game. For me, this is a super interesting subject, and I'm often gripped when I stick them on in the background. And finally we have Mayacast. Great production values, great range of topics, and I find, probably of the three, that Mayacast is the one best suited to bedtime listening, where winding down puts me in a good headspace to enjoy their brand of conversation. Finally, we also have the plethora of official resources available to help you on your Infinity journey. These are mostly things you'll find from the official Infinity website, and include stuff like lore overviews for different factions and locations, the usual smattering of downloadable images, which you'll probably have seen plenty of during the course of this video. However, there are also a few really cool things that deserve to be pointed out separately in a standalone section. First among this lot is the downloads, which I've already mentioned include full PDF rulebooks for both N4 and Code 1, in the resources section that is, giving you access to completely and comprehensively read up in advance of your games. However, over in the media section of downloads, you'll also find the unit identification graphics, which are really handy when as a new player you just haven't instinctively developed that ability to recognise each model from the next. As well as this, you'll also find the Corvus Belli blog over on the website, which is a great way to not only stay up to date on what's happening at Corvus Belli, but to see awesome spotlight articles like this one in which they featured me. And with that, you should now find yourself well loaded up on information and resources to go dive headlong into the human sphere. Of course, if you have any further questions about the game, do be sure to post a comment below and either myself or another Infinity fan are sure to drop in with an answer. I'm sure I speak for the whole community when I say that we look forward to welcoming you to our wonderful game, and we'll see you in the theatre of battle.